EFed podcast, the podcast exploring our fantasy wrestling hobby, where the wrestling is written, but the characters are real. I'm your host, Mikey Unlikely, and I'd like to thank you for joining us here on the Atomic Dropcast Network. And we're back for episode 42. Guys, thanks so much for tuning in. Excited you could join us. I hope everyone's getting psyched, having fun playing the game, and getting ready for those end of summer pay-per-views. I know about every Fed out there has one. I hope everyone's going to have a big match, win that big belt, and finally get that feud over the way you want to. Excited to be here, guys. Thanks for joining us again. As always, if you want to find us on the Twitter machine, you can do so at the EFed podcast. That's the primary way of getting a hold of us. If you want to reach us by email, you can reach us at mikey@efedpodcast.com. That's where you can reach me directly. If you want to just chat with us, you can jump into the Discord. The Discord link is in the Twitter profile. Just hop on in there. We have our own little EFed community with guys from every side of the game. Excited to have everyone in there. And don't forget to check us out on Patreon. Patreon.com/EFedPodcast. We are a free podcast, as you obviously know because you're listening right now. But you can also support the show for as little as $3 a month over at patreon.com/EFedPodcast. Really appreciate all of our supporters over there, and hope to see more people sign up for that and get more people here signed up for the interview list. Guys, right now we are booking all the way out to May of 2021. It's wild. If you want to get on the list, if you like the show, if you want to be interviewed, holler at us on Twitter, on Discord. Doesn't matter. Mikey or Brian, you can get us and we can get you on the list and ready to go. As for today's show, I'm really excited to do something different once again here on the podcast. We're going to be interviewing Matt and Bishop. They're from TCW/Rage over there. They are an email-based EFed. They are a Google Doc-based EFed, and they're kind of also OOC on Facebook EFed. It's a cool atmosphere. It was a cool experience for me to get to know these guys, to talk about their EFed, and to be in the email loop for the last week and see some of the stuff they do. It's been wild. My inbox is full, but I'm really excited to sit down and talk to them. So we've got that. We've got the EFed podcast question of the week. We've got EWT's advertisements. I know you're ready to check those out over at EWTs.com, Brian and I's other venture. And of course, we've got our great sponsors, which you're about to hear about right now.
Occupy Pro Wrestling, putting the smart back into smart mark since 2012 as we grapple with design and media services for wrestlers, promotions, and podcasters. We strive to enjoy pro wrestling in our community and podcast, centered around interviews with wrestlers and fans alike. If you like what you see and hear, check out the central hub for everything we're doing and the latest from our site partners over at OccupyProWrestling.com.
All right, guys, the EFed podcast is very happy to announce its brand new partnership over on Facebook with the Social Media Wrestling Association. The Social Media Wrestling Association, along with its 16,000 member strong influence page known as Generational Wrestling Society, has proven to be the true revolutionary EFed company of Facebook. The SWA welcomes written, video, and audio promos for its talent, as well as results provided in live 2K audio commentary and written results. The SWA is more than just an EFed. With GWS, all areas of the wrestling community are covered. From belt collectors, wrestling news, trivia, and podcasts, and EFeds. Check them out on Facebook at Social Media Wrestling Association and Generational Wrestling Society. You can give a search for both. Once you join both, you'll be glad to become associated with the society. And we're going to be posting our show on Facebook exclusively on the SWA and GWS sites. And we're very happy to have announced this partnership with the SWA, and you can hear about it here every week. So guys, go check them out. Social Media Wrestling Association on Facebook.
Defiance, an Angle-Fed boasting 8 years of continuous fantasy wrestling. Defiance offers opportunities for original characters, micros, a standalone website utilizing Backstage 3 script, and a forum hosted on the long-running fwrestling.com, as well as a roster full of some of the most experienced writers in the game. Come see for yourself at defiancewrestling.com. That's defiancewrestling.com.
Hey guys, are you digging this podcast? Well, we really appreciate it. I'd also appreciate it if you check out my other podcast. The Atomic Dropcast is a look back at the wrestling of yesteryear through adult eyes. We watch the wrestling that we watched as kids, as adults, with a couple of beers in our hands. It's a great time. Check it out over at atomicdropcast.com. You can also find us on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts.
OCW Fed is a hybrid pro wrestling EFed that combines elements of role play and competitive play using the WWE 2K franchise. Whether you're on PlayStation or Xbox, OCW Fed is a creative outlet for gamers and pro wrestling fans alike. With over 16 years experience producing weekly content and live Twitch events, OCW Fed has a thriving community with handlers from all over the world. If this sounds like your cup of tea, come check us out at OCWFed.com, OCW Fed TV on YouTube, and OCW Fed on Twitch. It's like D&D for wrestling nerds.
Hey everybody, it's Mikey. No, we're not back to the show just yet. First, I want to tell you about my Patreon. Now, I know what you're thinking. Oh no, am I going to have to pay for the podcast? No. The answer is emphatically no. The show has been and forever will be free. No, Brunk, you will not have to pay for the podcast. However, we have been asked by a handful of people how they can help support the show. And we've also been asked, mostly by Fuzz, why we didn't have a Patreon yet. And I quote, "You stupid I can't believe you don't have a Patreon. I will hurt you if you don't take my money now." End quote. That was Fuzz. He's a scary dude. So with that in mind, you can find us at patreon.com/EFedPodcast. Contributions start as low as $3 a month. Thank you very much for your consideration. Please get Fuzz off our backs. The EFed question of the week is brought to you by the EWC. The Extreme Wrestling Corporation is the game's longest-running roleplay EFed, having been established in 1997. With over 100 active role players across 4 unique brands, the EWC offers opt-in booking on all of its bi-weekly shows. It's home to Stranglemania and the 4-day wrestling festival known as WrestleFest. The EWC is built on its welcoming community with zero bias and no drama. All styles are welcome. Come check out the EWC today at EWC4life.com. That's EWC, the number 4, life.com. And this week's question of the week: what is your character's current theme song, and why is it the song that you chose? Over on the Twitter side of things, we got at Titanus Sam, Indestructible by Disturbed, for the simple reason that indestructible refers to Sam's willpower and fighting spirit. Even in her most brutal, disappointing losses, she's never given up or quit, nor does she have any intention of doing so. At JVD Rooster, Rooster by Alice in Chains was the first time I ever made a character based on a theme. The Never Gonna Die line made me think he should be an older wrestler. Vander Roost made it easy to sell Rooster, in turn made him Dutch, and Storm's pick base made it fit together. At Kaluizi2220, I use Remedy by Cold. I heard it once and thought, I like the song, I'll use it. Easy enough. At Prince MVRK, here's a current list of themes for me right now: Head Like a Hole by 9 Inch Nails, Wash Us in Blood by Kanye West, Inception by Hans Zimmer, the Junkie XL remix. At Somnia Anna, Vicious by Hailstorm. It's the most fitting theme for a character I've had in my entire EFed career. Gritty, powerful, tells a story. I love Hailstorm, and the song is too perfect for Anna. At Rick Saturday Night's All Right for Fighting by Elton John, because House cards take place on Saturday nights. It was a no-brainer for me. You would, Rick. At Sean_Warstein. I used to have this one most recently with a name change. It fits with the aura of the character and his growth, which is Fall Out Boy, Centuries. Also recently I've used Humble by Connor for real because at the time I was extremely humble of all my accomplishments. At Dresden45, Dresden TNT by AC/DC. I picked the song because it's one of my favorite songs and I needed a good beat. That's exactly the opposite of him. But I'm currently recreating for a future return. Interesting. Wonder what you'll choose this time around. At Unbreakable SMJ, I Will Not Break by The Sound of Thunder. Used it for years and it's perfect for my character because no matter what she goes through, both in her personal and professional life, she never lets it break her. And she's been through a lot of shit. At Real AJ Adams, Thank God It's Friday by 9 Inch Nails. I chose this song because it matches my character's appearance. At Shaw for Real, Carter Shaw Rocks, Last Man Standing by Pop Evil. I knew I wanted a straightforward rock riff for his badass ex-MMA fighter gimmick, but the lyrics of this tune sum up his never surrender persona and to tie in a bit with his never give up against all odds life story. At the Irwin 109, before I retired, I think I only ever used two. Gojira, From the Sky, and Angelique Kidjo, Some Things Are Worth Fighting For. The latter came with the whole face that runs the place style vibe, fighting the good fight. At OCWB17, David Hasselhoff, True Survivor, Embrace the 80s. Love it. At UWF Chris Spade, Broken, Beaten, and Scarred by Metallica. When I first debuted, it made sense since Chris was coming off a major injury, and thinking of all the battles and wars he put himself through since returning as well, it fits since he's not what he once was in the ring because of the wars. At Zach Quinn, LOP, Scream by Avenged Sevenfold. I chose this because it fits the new heel angle I'm doing with the line, "You know, I make you want to scream." At HOF Mike Best, Hallelujah by Hansel and Gretel because it's a fucking banger and I'm a shitty EFed hipster who hates music that feels too mainstream to be licensed in a wrestling show. Imagine the cost if your entire roster was licensing top 40 music just to walk down to the ring. Are you implying I shouldn't use Lil Wayne? At Henry_Blackstar, Ravenhead by Ordon Ogan. Honestly, I just love the song. At That's Azzy Evans, my current theme song is Radio Gaga by Queen. Since the tune sets a timeless tone, I imagine chanters rationalizing that regardless of whatever foreseeable fad that one views on the horizon, what resonates most is hearing a unique voice and perspective. At Positively Penny, although she has yet to debut, Penny's theme song will be Walkin' on Sunshine by Katrina and the Waves. The lyrics don't really fit a wrestler, but I wanted something that was good beat, lightweight, lighthearted, and infectious for an overt babyface. At Baron of Ballyhoo, I went with the Dropkick Murphys since Cassidy is an Irish kid from South Boston. For his entrance, he comes out to their song Gonna Be a Blackout because it's intense and aggressive. After he wins, he leaves to their song 1953 because now that the work is done, he's ready to party. At Real Sister Sin, Reckless and the Brave by All Time Low. All of my characters have changed music at least once, but this has stuck with Sierra since I brought her in. It's about a young kid being told they can't make it in the world, but they're determined to prove everyone wrong. Totally fits her. At Carnivore & Co., Cult of Personality by Living Color for Carnivore, because the song is about denouncing idolatry, and ironically for idealized warrior and the cult leader. DNA by Joyner Lucas for Donald Dream, because it starts with anger and hate inside the character's DNA. Interesting answers. Thanks for participating, guys, on the EFed Podcast Question of the Week on the Twitter side of things. Of course, you can find us on Twitter at the EFed Podcast. Over on the Discord side of things, let's see what we got from everybody over there. I'm sure Megan is first. No, for once she's not. Notorious won. Adam Cole's ROH theme before he left. It's real catchy and it fits my character. Adam Cole, baby. Love it. From 1998, this is MDG Warren. From 1998, Deacon went from Gregorian chant to the chant blending into the song Destiny by Petra. And from there, Deacon used Jesus Freak by DC Talk. And now he's back to just the Gregorian chant, but it's all part of his story. It's interesting when you can get back to where you began. At Seth is Burns, Oscar Burns is Raise Your Flag by Man with a Mission. Theme to Gundam is Iron Blooder Orphans, but it rocks as a babyface theme. Sky High Titans, Let's Go by Run the Jewels. It's an awesome sound. And Alvaro de Vargas, Living Legend by Ancla. Weird flomence rock theme that is loud and obnoxious like the person the theme is for. That's good reasoning as any. At Megan Likes Coupons, get your Spotify or Apple Music ready. Megan G's is The Eagle Has Landed by Avatar because the lyrics of Ladies and Gentlemen, Your Hero Has Returned Again. Haley Fiend is Angel Eyes by New Year's Day. Her eyes remind of angels. KPN is Going Down Fighting by Unleash the Archers because she will not go down fighting. I think you mean she will go down fighting. Brittany Helms is Unchained Django by James Brown and Tupac. It was her face turn theme and it's catchy as hell. Anya Coyle, Judgment and Punishment by Ginger. It's a good theme song for a psychologically graduate that Anya is. Psychology. There you go. I cannot speak today, guys. I don't know what the deal is. At Truthseeker62, Everything Has Changed by Lucero for Zeb Martin because it's my Ben Nichols man crush. Buy Me, Freeze Me, Lick Me, Eat Me by Allah's Snack Bar, or for Allah's Snack Bar, which is U2's Hold Me, Thrill Me, Kiss Me, Kill Me, but Ice Cream Sandwich singing the variation awfully over the chorus. I picked this because I'm a terrible person and I want people to be miserable. That sounds about right. Thanks, Jakey. At Mongo the Destroyer, Nelly Angel Rip It Up by Jet. Bro, the song slaps, so I've been told by his match writers. I love me some Jet and it fits with an exciting guy running out to the ring. For Randy Angel, it's My Own Worst Enemy by Lit. Classic song about being a drunk, which Randy is. And Lord Dominicans is The Bear Song by Green Jelly. Intentionally a hardcore sounding total goofball song. At Truth Seeker, Infinity Plus One. For Ravage, I use My Mind, Myself, and I by Secrets. It popped up on Spotify one day and I really dug the sound of it, so I changed it. And for the Tag Stable theme, we use Come and Get It by I Prevail, but I had someone re-edit the song to add a war horn and a siren in the beginning. The lyrics kind of fit with what we are trying to accomplish with Overhaul. For Kelly Leeds, I use the song Devil by Shinedown. Her nickname is the Jersey Devil, so it kind of fits. And I'm never happy with my themes and always hear something better as soon as I change it. Always, of course, that's exactly what happens. At Spectacular Disaster, I'm going to stick with everyone's final music to make it easier. For Eli Flair, it was Ghost Flowers by OTEP. It starts quiet but gets loud. It's frantic and full of energy. It includes the Eli Flair-esque line, You Will Know Me by The Scars I Bear. Ivy McGinnis, Because the Night by Patti Smith, because she's really become pro wrestling's punk rock godmother. Impulse, Cannonball by Circe, because his character is to support local music and the hey hey repeated refrain is high energy that fans can catch on to. Calico Rose is Soothsayer Lies by Lords. Same rationale as Impulse, only with the added benefit of an eccentric electric violin solo. Des Aragon never used entrance music because he fought in the asylum, but his unofficial theme was Pretty Toy by Velvet Acid Christ because it's slow, creepy, and the opening line, such a pretty toy to play with, fit perfectly with his god complex. At Billy What's His Name, Elise Aries, Heads Will Roll by Yeah Yeah Yaz. I went with the song because I think it has a very memorable beginning and has the kind of swagger I think fits Elise well. Matt LaCroix, The Dark Sentencer by Coheed and Cambria. His Japanese entrance song was Welcome Home by the same band, so this can be seen as a continuation of that. For Declan Alexander, The Happy Song by Bring Me the Horizon. It starts out with a very catchy cheerleader chant, which I think brings a very strong feel for who Declan is as a 19-year-old kid finding himself in the world. At That Masked Guy, Damned Anthem by Killing Kind. It's sort of dark and creepy in my opinion, and when I heard it for the first time, I could already visualize what the entrance would look like. Alex Smiley says Jim Connor uses Da Da Da, the English version by Trio, because it's silly to have an authority figure come out to a song like that. Seth is Burns. If I can pick a theme I want to give an e-wrestling character, I want to use Oh No You Didn't by the Wohan Brothers. At Truthseeker63, current wrestler theme is 300 Violin Orchestra because it fits the character of being a darker one. At Dominic Sanders, War Machine by Kiss. I try to build my character to be FTW as Taz was in ECW, hence using this theme. At Josh the Jersey Boy, I Won't Back Down by Tom Petty. The character is a good old deathmatch boy who lives and dies by the bloody brawl. I thought this was a good anthem to give him. At Rivs, Perfect Gentleman by Halloween. Character is perfection, perfect gentleman, perfection, you get it. We certainly do, Jay. Me, Holy Water Harry. Take the Money and Run by the Steve Miller Band. Good song. Steve Harrison is a man of miracles and cons. He is a common, okay, haha. A con man. I cannot read today, guys. I don't know what the deal is. Also used the same song back in 2000 with my original character, but that was because he was greedy. I think it works for Steve better. At Highlander 4H, Ron Hall, McDonald. Last one I used was Gold Medal, Angle's TNA theme. I just liked it and thought it fit my character's in-ring style. Not my personality, though. At Queen Linda's OG, LT's Howl theme is Put 'Em in the Grave by Jedi Mind Tricks, a recent change. I like the beat and the lyrics fit with the new story I'll be telling with her. The Deaf theme is Legendary by Seven King Z. Again, like the beat, and it felt like a good return song given her history with the company. At Crimson Scott, Closer to the Void by the Enigma TNG for Crimson Lord, mainly because it was kind of an aggressive style theme. For Scro, it's the In-Between by In This Moment. The song comes off as Which Side Will He Side With? Revenge of the Freaks by Mr. Strange for the Toy Box. It has kind of a mixture of a circus style beat with some rock style with it. Interesting, guys. It's weird how all of us have a different perspective and how we go about this, how we come up with the character. Some of us just use the name, some of us use the appearance, some of us try to visualize an entrance, and I like to hear the different styles, the different kinds of music, and the different kinds of characters we have with it. Thanks for participating in this week's Question of the Week, whether on Twitter, on Discord, wherever you participated. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for participating. Go ahead and watch for next week's Question of the Week to pop up right there at the top of the Twitter profile.
Hey, this is Roland, handler of Tyler and Connor Fuse, the Fuse Brothers, and you're listening to the EFed podcast.
All right, everybody, time for a little EWT's update. The site's been popping off, the orders have been shipping out, and everything is back to normal. Shipping times are great. We are shipping fast. We're able to add new product every single day. We've got some new shirts up over at EWTs.com that you've probably not seen. Check it out. You can get your custom wrestler, tag team, stable, fed, whatever t-shirt up over at EWTs, EFedTees.com. Either or. Guys, don't forget that this is the last week for the coupon deal. If you are not signed up by Monday, August 31st, then you do not get the $5 deal. $5 to set up a t-shirt with your own graphics, and we give you a $5 coupon in return. Take advantage while you can. Only 1 week left on this deal. All right, guys, we're back for another edition of the EFed Podcast interview series. This week, I'm joined by a couple guests. We're going to mix it up, do something new. We've got Matt and Bishop, both of TCW/Rage. It's an email and Google Groups-based EFed. I'm really excited to have these guys on, talk about the way that they EFed versus the way we EFed, or I guess when I say we, it's the way I EFed, because everybody who listens to the show EFeds a different way. We got Matt and Bishop. Guys, how are you doing today?
Doing well. Doing great. Feeling good.
Good. Glad to hear that. Thanks for taking the time to join the show. Excited to have you on and talk about TCW and Rage.
Excited to be here.
Yeah, ready.
Very excited to be here.
It was interesting because I had originally heard from, I guess, the Fed head, Joel, and he had reached out to me and said, "Hey, I would love to get on your show." And then when I said, "Okay, let's do it," he said, "Okay, here's the two guys you're going to talk to."
Yeah, so Joel actually started the TCW Rage back a long time ago, and he's still involved and still a part of it. Just, he kind of lets the head bookers kind of run things from the day to day, and he still has a part in the day to day, but we're more of the talkative type than he really is, so that's why we're here and we pretty much run the day to day. So
that's awesome. Well, I'm glad to have you, and I'm excited to talk about your Fed. But before we do that, let me ask you guys a couple of preliminary questions I asked most of my guests. How and when did you first get into professional wrestling?
Yeah, so I originally got into professional wrestling at a very, very young age. My father used to watch it, and I used to watch it with him. One of the first characters I fell in love with was Sting. I also remember meeting Shawn Michaels in a McDonald's one day in Connecticut, and I was too scared to go talk to him. But as a 4 or 5 year old, that's a big deal seeing somebody like him.
Absolutely.
So from a really early age, I started watching wrestling, and I've just loved everything about wrestling, really. The storytelling and just the physical abilities, and, been a fan ever since.
I'm the same. I got into when I was really young. I think my earliest memory was, Hogan slamming Andre, which I think a lot of people could say that.
Nice.
My first character that I fell in love with was Jake the Snake Roberts. But I think the one that made me love wrestling was Cactus Jack. We had just moved into our house, and I was always a WWE guy, not WCW, which is funny because I live in Georgia.
You were at the home, yeah.
Right, and was over here painting our new house, and we had the little black and white, so we had local channels, and I saw Cactus Jack, and this dude had a crate, and he's like, "Sting, these are your ribs," and the dude just headbutted, knocks himself out, headbutting this wooden crate. I was like, "Who is this guy?" And I just fell in love with it. And much like Bishop, I saw at the Cobb County Civic Center at Smoky Mountain Wrestling Show.
Nice.
I saw Cactus Jack. He was probably about 10 feet from me, and man, I kick myself to this day. I could have walked and said, "Hey, Mr. Cactus Jack." I couldn't say Nick, because I know his name was Mick Foley at that time. But hey, I'm a big fan, but I swallowed my pride. I just couldn't do it. But yeah, I love wrestling. I love the crazy characters. I love the storytelling, and I'm still a fan to this day. I've loved it for a long time.
That's crazy. Those are awesome that you guys both ran into those guys. What are the odds?
Exactly.
I once took a piss next to Dan Severn. How's that?
There you go. Dan the Beast Severn.
That's right.
If I was next to Dan Severn, I'd probably take a piss involuntarily. That dude is horrifying.
Yeah, he was a bad man.
Yes, he was.
A bad man.
That's funny.
The mustache. The mustache just...
No one asks questions when you're that bad.
No.
Right.
No.
So that's awesome. So what about today? Like over all time, who are your favorite wrestlers?
One of my most cognitive memories of wrestling, like I remember some of the old stuff, but as an individual, I really ended up falling in love with Randy Orton. I remember his first match in WWE against Hardcore Holly on SmackDown, where his finisher at that time was the overdrive, which was some weird,
really bad slam.
Yeah, rotating leg move. And I've always just loved that character. I've always loved Randy Orton. I've always been a fan of the bad guy, and in the business, I don't think when Randy's on, nobody's better than him when he's a bad guy. I loved Evolution. I thought that was the bee's knees growing up. So yeah, I'd probably say Randy Orton is top of the food chain for me.
As far as modern day wrestling goes, like my guy from I think Attitude Era on was probably Chris Jericho, and and which is funny because I can't get into AEW, which I don't. And I know he's big in AEW, but Chris Jericho is always my guy. I just love to hit him being the smart ass. Like a lot of my characters take nods from him because I just love the fact that when Jericho's face, he's just an asshole to the heels, and when he's a heel, he's just an asshole to the faces. It's just who's he being a jerk to, and I love that kind of smarmy character. And like this year when Edge came back at the Royal Rumble, like that was my biggest pop ever because everybody's saying, "Oh, Edge come back to the Royal Rumble." I'm like, no, he's not. He can't barely walk. Like, there's no way Edge has come back to the Royal Rumble. And you think me hits. I almost jumped to the roof.
That's awesome.
I've never been more surprised than that, and it was just a great moment. So yeah, those kind of guys, and I like the hardcore guys. Like I'm a big Strowman guy. Even though I think they put the belt on 2 years too late, but that's a whole different story. But
I've always been drawn more to those methodical guys. Like Sting had some flashy stuff, but he was more always ring psychology, more methodical. Slower pace, but he could pick it up. So Sting, Randy Orton, Triple H. Always been a big fan of Triple H. Yeah, just those slow, methodical type guys. Bret Hart. I was a huge fan of Bret Hart. One moment that really stands out to me was with Randy Orton. I mean, personally, in my opinion, he kind of started the Undertaker's streak. It really became a big deal in the wrestling world when him and Randy Orton were feuding because he made it a point to really drive that story home. So, that was a big moment for me.
Sure, I like the variety that you guys have between, Orton, who doesn't get enough shouts on this show. Chris Jericho, we hear all the time, so obviously he's very, very influential. But even different guys, Triple H and Sting, throwing all those guys out there. It's good stuff. It's nice to have a variety between when you're a kid and now, and then you guys basically just mentioned moments that made you feel like you were a kid again.
Oh, absolutely.
That's what I love about wrestling. So let's talk about e-wrestling. How did you guys find e-wrestling?
I first found it. It was weird. One of my friends, like in college, my best friend back then, and actually we're still best friends now. We was big wrestling guys. That's how we got together. Like we lived in a dorm, and we'd go down and basically claim the common room when Raw and Nitro was on. Kind of dating myself here, but we would claim that room and say, okay, if you're going to come in here, you can come in here, but you got to watch wrestling. And it was two pretty big guys, so no one was arguing with us. But that's how we got into it. And he was like, hey, man, I've had this thing on the internet where you can be a wrestler. And I'm like, a what now? Like, and I remember back in the old wrestling books where you had the mail-in wrestler where you could, write down on a card what your wrestler was, and you picked like 5 moves, and you sent it in, and they would like do like this kind of game thing. So I was thinking something kind of like that. And he's like, "Nah, man, you like do your promos and stuff." And I'm like, "That sounds really weird." And so, so I was like, "Well, let's get into it." So we kind of messed around with it, my first character was actually Soggy the Dark Clown, based off the Yu-Gi-Oh card. It was a cheap ripoff of Doink, the evil Doink. But it was a lot of fun. I kind of got into it because he was kind of like, hey, he randomly found a Fed, and let's see here, 20 so odd years later, here we are.
That's right.
Yeah, so for me, I found it by chance. I was always, me and my dad was is a big influence on me with my wrestling, everything I've always loved. And we used to play the wrestling games together.
Okay.
SmackDown, Know Your Role, all those games, and we would make characters, and all of our created characters all had the same last name. They were all the Van Hammers. and there was Matt Van Hammer, there was David Van Hammer, AJ Van Hammer. We just went and did this 30-man create a superstar of the Van Hammers. And my dad always would joke around with me, and we would sit there and we would talk and just play around as if we were our wrestling characters. You know, my dad, me being a, young kid, he knew that I really enjoyed it, so he'd play around and joke around with me about it and everything. Well, one day I was just on the computer, and Yahoo Groups was a big thing at the time, and I was like, oh, let's see what they have for wrestling games. And I typed in wrestling games, and I found at first it was a actual wrestler role-playing where you wrote out as, you could be Randy Orton.
Oh,
yes.
Stone
Cold.
Yeah.
And all of them were dead. Like, nobody ever wrote for them or anything like that. And then I stumbled across TCW and Rage, or at the time it was TCW and ASW. And I started there at 15 years old, and I've been hooked to e-wrestling ever since.
Wow, that's pretty crazy. You've been in the same Fed for that long.
Yes.
That's nuts.
I've been here since 2008, so 12 years.
You guys got to get a life. No, I'm kidding.
I've given up on that.
Yeah,
I tried.
I EFed and run Dungeons and Dragons campaigns. I think getting a life is well past.
There you go.
Not
on the cards.
And go to antique stores. That's about my. So
Hey, I do that too. I got a wife who likes antiquing, so
I collect Funko Pops, so that's kind of my other hobby. And I've been doing this. I've been e-wrestling now for about 20 years. Going on, or about 15 years. I apologize. So it's always been a release for me. I've always loved writing. So writing e-wrestling, taking two of my hobbies and passions that I've always loved and putting them together, it's just been an amazing experience, thinking back 15 years, that's a long time.
No doubt. Now, before we get into TCW and Rage, real quick, tell me about characters you ran, just who people may know out there, the major characters you've played without going too deep into histories for now.
For me, the two most prominent characters that I've ran, like I said, haven't really gone too far out of the realm of that I'm in, but Matt Blake, who just recently retired, and then I have the Fringe Jericho Holloway.
Nice.
Matt Blake was always kind of more a real person, dealing with daily struggles like everybody else. He wouldn't be afraid to admit that he was, down on his luck or struggling or anything like that. And then Jericho Holloway, which is the character I'm currently running, has a split personality disorder from trauma as a child or as a young man. And it manifested into a kind of a darker personality, which is the Fringe. And now he's leading a cult. So
my main characters, I have three. I run a tag team, Border Machine. They are kind of just your fun-loving party guys, kind of like Edge and Christian, but weirder. Like they're just very strange. Like Machine has a fear of clowns, so Bart thought it'd be a good idea to take him to a carnival. That's one of my favorite promos with those three. I run Yuki and his wife, Zoe Fong, and they're tag team champions actually right now in Rage. And he's just this crazy homicidal kind of guy, and she's the one that kind of has to rein him in. And my most popular character, the character that me and Matt Blake just had an epic feud last year with, is Harvey Adams. And he's kind of like a mix between Ric Flair and Kurt Angle and the worst human being possible. I mean, this guy, like, if you saw him walking the street, you just punch him in the face. Like, he's just out of control. Like, one time he told a person that was going to beat him so bad they'd get cancer and die from it.
Ouch.
And, yeah. And there was this girl they feuded against that claimed to be able to be able to see into the future. So he blindfolded her and asked her which hand he's going to punch him with, and then punch him. These are the kind of things that Harvey Adams does because he's a horrible person, but yet he is so fun to write for. He is just great to write for.
That's definitely interesting, and it's fun when you can not only take a character and be yourself, but take another character and not be anything like yourself.
Oh, right? Yeah, because I try to think that I'm a pretty nice guy, and Harvey Adams is just a horrible person, just a terrible person. It's fun to release. If I was a bad person, this is what I would do, and just you can do it.
Well, we'll be the judge of that. No, I'm kidding. All right, guys, let's talk about your Fed. TCW Rage has been going on for a long, long time. It's had many iterations over the years. It's had many different names over the years. You talked to us about earlier how you got in when you were 15, but talk to us about how the Fed was when you got there.
Yeah, so when I originally came to TCW, I started out in TCW, and it was still writing based, but we used to run weekly shows, and all the Feds ran the shows every single week. So, it was very taxing because we don't do many summary matches. Everything we do is, written out matches.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, we write them ourselves. We don't have like a simulator write them or anything like that. So everything is handwritten. And it's really crafted with a love. To do it, you have to love what you're doing.
Absolutely.
So ultimately at that point, there was TCW, ASW, and then there was Rage. We ended up probably, I want to say in the 2010s, we ran into a member shortage, and we ended up condensing just to TCW and to Rage.
Okay.
ASW got absorbed into Rage. And so probably now for the past 8 to 10 years, it's been TCW and Rage, but they've all always been under the same umbrella.
Yeah, makes sense.
When I came in, I was actually in a dying Fed that I won't mention the name of here because obvious reasons, and somebody came on there kind of poking fun at us, and I went out to defend my Fed because, I was loyal, and they were like, hey, you've got talent. Why don't you come on over to us? We've got a very active roster or whatever, and I found it, and I just haven't left. And that's kind of how it was when I got there.
And how long have you been there now?
I've been there now 12 years.
Holy cow. Yeah, that's crazy. That's awesome, though. I mean, before this recent run where I've been in a Fed for 5 years, I thought that was a crazy number. So I guess it just, until you find that fit, it's not much you can say.
I was actually in Korea. I was teaching English in Korea, and I had I got that itch again. I can only watch wrestling every now and then. I had that itch to do EFed again, so I went out looking, and there's some great EFEDs out there, but there's also some not so great. I had this run of bad luck. I would get dead EFed or EFed that's not ran right, and man, and it was just starting to burn me out. And then when I found TCW Rage, it's like a breath of air, like fresh air. I was like, this is what it's supposed to be like. And it really helps that everybody there, and I think about the people that were there back then, 90% of them are still here today.
Wow.
And they just took me in with open arms. And some of these guys, I've never met them, but I would call them some of my closest friends. People are like, how do you say that? And I'm like, well, you've known somebody for 12 years,
Obviously, they're a close friend at 12 years, yeah.
Exactly. If I still talk to them now, I must like something about them.
How is the Fed run? Let's talk about how unique it is, and in the fact that it is based right now entirely over Google Groups. And it is very email based as well.
Yeah. So, ultimately we run what's called bi-weekly shows. So the way that works is TCW, for instance, will run a show, and then Rage will run a show, and then TCW, and then Rage.
Sure.
We require 1 RP per Fed per week. So, for instance, if it's TCW's week, RP for that Fed before the show, and then the next week, if you have a character in Rage, then RP for that character for the upcoming Rage show. We don't want to burn people out. This is supposed to be a fun thing. So, if it was, hey, we're doing both shows every single week, we need match writers for it, and we need
3 role plays, 10,000 words
right,
each.
Exactly. And, that you can burn out real quick. And I remember the days when that was the case, where people would burn out because of it. So we found this format, and it works, and it allows people to breathe and still be a part and not feel like this is your major time. I mean, for instance, Joel, who is the person who contacted you, he writes his stuff while he's out exercising, so that's where he does his stuff. I do mine all different kinds of places. Like I could be, at work, and I'll be like, oh yeah, that's a really good idea for an RP. So I'll write it down and I'll send it out. It makes it so you can do things on the fly with the setup we have. There's no word limit requirement on RPs. There's no, particular style we're looking for. All of our matches are full, written out. So that's pretty much the gist of how things work.
And just to kind of go on that, having shows every 2 weeks, it gives also the bookers more freedom. Like, it's kind of like the difference between football and baseball. Baseball has so many games, not every game matters. Football seems like once a week it matters. And same thing with all EFEDs, like each show should be important. It shouldn't be like, oh, well, I got another Rage show. No, it should be like, oh yeah, Rage is coming up. It's going to be big because it only comes every 2 weeks. It should be something you look forward to. And as far as like the promos go, like well, first somebody I've known a long time just joined our Fed, and one of our members' girlfriends just joined. Neither one of these people even watch wrestling, and right now I would say they don't even watch wrestling, but they're 2 of the hottest characters in TCW right now. They have both just taken to it, and I think that just speaks to the fact that we're not looking for, you don't have to be the next Ric Flair or whatever. That's not what we're looking for. We're looking for people with passion, people who want to tell a story, people want to build a character, people want to, have fun. That's what we're looking for. And, whatever your style is, we have all types of people. We have people who do very short promos, and we have guys that do like 15-page,
novellas.
Right. That's how it feels when I'm reading them. I'm just kidding. But no, some are very short and some are very long. And some are in the middle. I fall somewhere in the middle. I kind of think of mine as kind of like an interview on wrestling. How long they usually go. That's about how long I go. So, but if that's not your style, and the thing is, one of my friend who just joined earlier this year, like, we talk all the time. It's like, what should I do with my promo? What should I do? Can I do something that's not an interview? I'm like, man, you can do anything you want to. Like the Snosberries tastes like Snosberries, man. Do what you want to do. And, I'm here for you. If you have any questions, man, the door's open. I'm all about communication. If you need help building your character, whatever, and I know Bishop would say the same thing. And that's the thing about this EFED. You've got guys that have been doing this for, 15, 20 years. So any questions you got, they're going and then none of them are snobs. None of them are, they're all like, hey, yeah, man, you want to talk? We can talk. We can thrash things over, And it's just a very positive community. I'm very proud of our community. I would put it up against any Fed out there. I really would. I think we've got a great group of guys, creative and just a bunch of class acts.
That's awesome. So let's cover basically when you do a show and you post your results in the Google group. And when you post it, those results go to every member's email. And then when a character also places a role play, or I assume segments, or in this case, award shows, or whatever the case, everybody else gets an email as well. It's a way to keep up with the Fed even on the go.
Yeah, exactly. And that's one of the big things that helps for us. So we have a lot of people who are all different kinds of walks of life. You know, I do all different kinds of things in my life. You know, I'm active in my local church. I work full time. I help with the Boy Scout troop. Like, I'm a on the go person. I'm home only usually at night. So being able to do everything I need to do while I'm on the go is super important, and it's organized very well as well. You know, we have a place just for Rage role plays. You know, if you're posting for Rage, you post in there. If you are posting for TCWR roleplay, you post in TCW roleplay. Anything that is a show or a major announcement from the booker or one of the Fed heads, they go into a specific group as well. So everything is very well organized in the aspect that if you open your email, for instance, oh, Matt White, TCWRP, boom. You know, oh, there's a Rage RP. There's something from our TCW mail. So it's all broken down where, you know, you can tell if, hey, I can read this a little bit later, or, you know, this is something I need to read as soon as possible.
Absolutely. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's what I do a lot of times. Like, I read it on my, like Bishop said, the on the road, you can pull out your phone, pull out your email, read it, you're good to go. And then you can start thinking about what you want to know about.
Until you get the opportunity to sit down. Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, it's interesting. And it was nice that I got to sit in and preview this past week and see how it kind of operates, because I definitely had a better understanding once I started seeing how the emails roll in and seeing the promos. And it's nice because, you know, if you got the Gmail app or whatever the case,
yep,
you just pop open a roleplay without having to load a website, without loading a bunch of graphics. There's a roleplay. There's your opponent's words right there on your screen.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's really cool. So has TCW and Rage always been a Google group, or like you said earlier, maybe it was a Yahoo group first?
It originally started, to my knowledge, ever since I can remember, it was a Yahoo group. What ended up happening is we had to make the jump because Yahoo groups was shutting down.
Yes.
And we had toyed with the idea. And this is one of my first decisions I was a part of as coming into the management team at the time. So this was fun. Was trying to figure out an alternative. We played with the idea of websites. We played with the idea of going to a pure email-based system, but we found Google Groups, and it stuck true to Yahoo Groups, but a more refined version and a better version. And we felt that was what was best for our members, as that's what they knew. It was easier for us to be, like we stated, to be mobile, you know, so you didn't have to load a bunch of graphics because, like I said earlier, we have people from all different kinds of walks of life, and we just wanted to make it as easy for them as possible.
Yeah, exactly. It was, like Bishop said, it was Yahoo Groups. It was Google, because Yahoo is shutting down. Like, it's just cleaner, it's just better. And like we used to have a OOC group, which is out of character comments, basically just a place for us to talk. We had a Google group for that, but then we went to Facebook and we opened up our Rage and TCW Facebook page, and that's where we talk now. Like, if you want to talk, you go on there and talk, and you know.
Interesting. So your Google group is where the Fed happens, and then you've got the Facebook group or chat for the OOC stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
That's where people post up wrestling stuff, or, oh yeah, this is funny, you know, this is about a character or whatever, you know, they find a meme or whatever that connect to a character, like, oh, look, it's whatever. You know, it's all fun stuff.
One of the major, I'm going to use the joke of a feud out of character right now for us is whether pineapple belongs on pizza.
It does not, by the way.
Yeah, I can't. So sorry.
We have one handler who will be very happy that you said that pineapple does not belong on pizza. So we posted, or somebody posted a picture of somebody tied to a post, and it says "witch," and the witch is saying pineapple on pizza is delicious. And above it says the debate continues, and there's about 10 to 15 comments just going back and forth about whether pineapple belongs on pizza. But that's the kind of community we have, and we felt like moving that portion to Facebook allows us to have a presence for one there, but also for a different kind of conversation than just EFed. You know, one thing that we really, really, really stress in our feds is that we're a community. You know, we're all in this together. We're all doing this for fun, and we're not trying to argue. We're not trying to fight. You know, we want you to, you know, if you're having an issue, man, come to me. Like, talk with me. You know, I'll give the best advice I can. We're a community. We're a group of friends that we've met from all different kinds of places and stuff like that, you know, we all come together for one common goal. Yeah, there's competition. You know, you want to win the titles, you want to so on and so forth, but, you know, we're a community.
That's great to hear, and I think that's a strong reason that feds like that last as long as it has, is the community aspect. People get together, they become friends, they want to keep writing together. It turns into a great thing where you enjoy watching your friends achieve.
Right.
Oh yeah, I mean, we just did I just did a massive joint promo with the entire TCW Fed. That was like a Zoom meeting, and like just seeing all these people come together, and you know what their characters brought to the table was just so entertaining. Like our world champion, his character was talking, doing his promo, but he was driving, so like service kept dropping, so it cut off parts of the which is just so funny. That's what his character would do, like, and it was just so great seeing what everybody kind of brought to it. And one of the characters like made it where like he didn't know that he was being recorded. Like, oh my God, what? Turn it off! Turn it off! Turn it off!
It's the toughest thing for writing as long as we have is trying to come up with new ideas on a weekly, consistent basis.
Yeah. And that kind of gets broken when you, like, for instance, with us doing the bi-weekly shows, you don't have to come up with something fresh every single week. And one thing that we stress, and I've stressed as being the Booker of Rage now for about 2 years, is that your best today isn't going to necessarily be your best tomorrow. All I ask is that in every single RP, you just give your best. And not every RP is going to be a knockout. Like, not every RP needs to be 7 pages long and be the most jaw-dropping RP that you've ever read. Like, sometimes it's just, hey, yeah, I'm going into this match. I don't know what's going to happen. And, you know, I'm going to give it the best I can. You know, sometimes it's that. But then sometimes you just hit that nail on the head. You just hit that great promo that's just so memorable. One promo, and I'll kind of go into a little bit of detail on this, is to kind of show that community aspect. Is I had mentioned earlier that I'm running a character named Jericho Holloway, who's a cult leader now. And we've been talking about different ideas to really bring that aspect out, that he's still this wicked man that deals with this split personality disorder. One of the handlers who's in the group allowed my character to chop his finger off because he messed up, because he made a mistake, and he had to atone for his mistake. And it wasn't even my idea. It was other person's character idea, who was like, hey, how about we, you know, chop off my character's finger, because that will really drive home the aspect that your character is still crazy. In our feds, there's a lot of give and take, and there has to be. You know, you don't want to be, everybody's not going to be this macho, you know, I'm never going to look weak. You have to know how to sell. That's a major thing in EFedding, and I think if you know how to sell, then it allows you to last longer and have more fun in EFedding as a whole.
Oh, and it challenges you to be, as a writer, to do different things.
Absolutely.
That's like I was having a conversation with my friend who just joined us talking about the other day, and we're talking about Harvey Adams, and he said, man, the other week, Harvey really just got his ass kicked. And I was like, yeah, and I wrote that match. He's like, really? I'm surprised because, he kind of just got, destroyed. And I'm like, look, the whole reason that you have a guy like Harvey Adams is at the end of the day, you want to see him get his ass kicked. You want to see him get his. I mean, he may win, most of the time, but when he gets his, he's going to get it, and you're going to be happy about it. And that's part of the story. Sometimes, like, there is this idea about not wanting to look weak or not wanting your character to look bad. And, like, especially if you're a heel, man, end of the day, your job is for the face to kind of come in and make, smack you around a little bit, and then they win. And, like, what's that Vince you say? Hogan must flex?
Hogan must pose, yeah.
Must pose, that's it. Hogan must pose. At the end of the day, if you're a heel, that face needs to get that big win over you. And
absolutely
smack you around a little bit.
Well, good. Let's talk about the championships in the Fed. Let's talk about the individual brands. Let's break it down a little further first. TCW is and has been the first one in the name for some time. Talk to me about TCW, what it represents, and what kind of style it is.
TCW it is the oldest of the two. Not by long though. I believe Rage was made. I'm not sure because I wasn't around when it was first there, but I know TCW is old.
I'm checking my records right now.
Okay. He's our records keeper, so
there is some debate.
But TC, like the Georgia Tech, who has more wins, or the records, just like the old college football records. But TCW has, let me think. Let me count here. They have the war title, the Intercontinental title. Then we have a street fight. Now, the Intercontinental title now has a kind of a stipulation on it where, and this was one of my first decisions coming into the Fed, because Joel, and now I'm going to tell you this now, Joel is the main head Fed guy. And when decision was made for me to come in, he said, okay, now I'm gonna tutor you for about a year. So starting end of last year, he's been tutored. That's how serious we take these Feds. He didn't just say, here's the keys to the kingdom, kid. Good luck. I've been under his tutelage for the last, almost going on a year here, and I've really grown a lot. And that's how much care we take in these EFEDs, that he would do that he would care that much about it. But going back to the Intercontinental title is one of the first decisions I made was, I was like, if we're going to bring back the IC title, I want there to be something that makes it special, that it's not just another belt. So I said, what if we make it where all IC title defenses are multi-man matches? So it could be any kind of match as long as there's more than one guy in it. Triple threats, fatal four-ways, even tag team matches. Yeah. So it's really interesting, and it's kind of like and I've had a lot of fun making these matches, and just kind of throwing everything at the board and just kind of seeing it's just a lot of fun. And then we have the street fight title, which is, as you can imagine, all the matches are street fights. And that usually seems to go to two different kinds of people. Either right now you've kind of got a cowardly heel with it who always seems to find a way to sneak their way out of it, kind of like you're talking about your character earlier. Or you get a total hardcore guy going after it. And those fight matches are all street fight titles matches. And then you have the national title, which that is more of a straight up just wrestling belt. It's the it's kind of like the European title. I guess that'd be kind of the equivalent in kind of strength. But it's got a rich history. Like it's been around for about 10 years now. We just now brought it back a couple years ago, but it's got a long history. And then we have our tag team title is actually a Trinity tag team title match. So it's 6-man teams.
Okay.
So that can the team that has it now, 2 guys picked it up in this big Fed wide match, and they picked up the belts, but there's only 2 of them, so they had to find a third person. So they went through this whole thing about finding somebody to tag with them, and actually they're going to defend it at the pay-per-view tomorrow night. Well, by the time this comes out, it'll be 2. But anyways, the first time they defend the belts will be the first time they actually tag team as a team. So you can have a lot of interesting things. Yeah, and we've had a lot of teams that one guy doesn't like the one guy on the team and that kind of stuff. And it's just a fun twist on the whole tag team setup, and they call that the Trinity Tag Team titles, and that's our title. And I think TCW in a nutshell is kind of like, traditional wrestling, but TCW's roots are actually more of what we call mortals and portals, which is like very supernatural things. That's what our roots were. And we're trying to get away from that. And yet some of that stuff kind of creeps in every now and then. Like October is usually Mortals and Portals month, where you can either stay a mortal or you can get superpowers for that month. And I don't know if we're going to do it this year. There's been talk about not doing it this year. But it's just a fun time. So that's kind of what we are. We are traditional wrestling, but we also like to mix it up too, have some fun, You
really embrace the fantasy.
Right. And I say kind of, we all more nowadays most characters are set in like reality, I guess you'd say, but one of our characters is a vampire. Now, he gets kind of mocked by the other wrestlers, so you think he's a vampire, but he goes with it. So, I mean, if you brought over, and we used to have a character, unfortunately, she's no longer current. She had to drop out, but she was the daughter of the devil. And so when we have that extreme, and then we have, your basic solve the earth, ground and pound guys too. So, we got a little bit of both, but I would say for the most part we are ground in reality. But if you bought a character that was fantasy, they wouldn't be at a place that they could find a place in TCW.
All right, so Rage has technically been around longer.
Really? Okay.
He was waiting. He was hiding in the bushes.
So Rage originated in 2003. This version of TCW has been around since 2004.
Oh, okay.
Got him by a year.
Yeah. So the reason I say this version is because the TCW actually has a history with relatively the same people since around the early 90s, 80s, through like snail mail and stuff like that. And we've gone and brought in a lot of that history into our Fed. So really, our history, and we keep all this history, we all have that history that we can pull up at any point in time. So it's really cool. So yes, Rage has been around longer than this current form of TCW.
Well, let's talk about Rage. Tell us about what separates it from TCW.
Sure.
What makes it different, and how you kind of run the ship over there.
Yeah. So the best way I can describe the difference between Rage and what Matt just went over with TCW is I look at Rage as being a little bit more gritty. I enjoy the, fun stories, and not that I don't have those in there, but I also push the envelope a little bit with some of the things that I do, in the aspect of, I don't really care for a lot of false finishes, and not that TCW does. I like definitive winners. So I try to always have that in some form or fashion. It may not be right off, but in the end, there will be a definitive, this person beat this person in this instance. I really just believe that Rage is just gritty. Trying to think of how I can describe it. There's the hardcore aspect. So the championships we have the Rage World Championship. We have the Bare Knuckle Championship, which is contested under last man standing rules. Then I have my tag team championships, which are the Rage Gauntlet Tag Team Championships. And then I have a title that I actually just introduced called the High Stakes Championship. What the High Stakes Championship is at any point in time, if you hold this belt with 1 week prior notice, you can turn that championship in for a guaranteed world championship match.
Okay, sounds good on paper.
Yep.
Where's the catch?
The catch is that the champion gets to pick the stipulation for the match.
Fair enough.
So it really goes and it opens up the idea of, like I said, that grittiness, as well as you have to watch your back at all given times because you never know what's going to happen. When I took over Rage, one thing that I tried to do, the person who ran it before me was one of the founding members of Rage. So he made his name in Rage. Like he's been there since the beginning. I wanted to keep that idea that he had, but change it a little bit. So some things I did was I started a yearly tournament at the beginning of the year, or our season as we call it, because at the end of each year, probably around Christmas time to the middle of January, we take time off. Just recharge your batteries. That's when we do our award show, stuff like that.
Everyone takes time with the fam.
You got it.
Smart.
You got it. I have a yearly tournament, which leads into the first Rage pay-per-view, where, hey, if you want a championship, let me know. You'll be placed in the tournament. And whoever goes gets the chance, whoever wins that tournament gets a chance at the world title, or, each title has their own tournament. Rage, nobody is outside of title contention in Rage. And that's not saying that, that's how it is in TCW, but this is just how my vision is. That, hey, that new guy that just came in, yeah, for all he's going to impress me to the point where, boom, he's going to be in a world title match. Not saying he might not win it, but you know what? Hey, he's there. So it's really an open slate that if you want something, prove it to me.
That's awesome. And it sounds like both brands do have a unique identity compared to the other. So regardless of what you're into, whether it's hardcore style, a wrestling style, a storytelling style, there's something for you to do in one of the two feds.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, and I think you hit it on the head. I think Rage does this too, but I think storytelling, character building is one of the things that I love the most about these feds is that, you could do like Bishop said, like you can have, some guy come in and just impress the heck out of somebody, say, hey, you're the world title. Like we just had two characters come over, and actually it was they came from Rage over here, our tag team champions, and a part of the storyline. I'm like, hey, you know what? In Rage, they never put you in a world title match. Well, I'm going to do that because there is a competition, between TCW and Rage, and that's one of the interesting things that other feds won't have. Every year we do a pay-per-view called TCW versus Rage, but
Rage versus TCW.
Sorry. What's the Rage?
Rage came first.
Yeah, but as far as my character goes, that kind of happens year round. Like my guys kind of always taking this little, because there is that rivalry. Who's better, TCW? And it's on between us. It's a friendly rivalry, but in storyline, it's pretty because we're the two top feds. There's no WWE. There's no. I can't remember the other Impact or the one Jericho's in now. I totally blanked.
AEW.
Yeah, AEW. Jeez Louise. Yeah, there's no. We are the only top feds in the. So it's kind of like the old Monday night, wars all over again between Rage and TCW. And I think that's a unique aspect that other federations aren't going to give you. That there is that Rage versus TCW rivalry going on. Well, like, hey, we're better than you, and then no, we're better, So it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, and one thing I want to add to that is we keep the feds as separate as possible, and I know that sounds weird, but they only meet once a year.
That was one of my questions coming up was, do you ever get a chance to put everybody together?
Yeah, we meet once a year, and then outside of that, there's really no interaction between the two. And not that we don't like that interaction, but it makes that one time that both
very special.
Very, very special. And we choose different match types for the feds to compete in. Sometimes we'll do super matches, things like that. But each year there's a fed-wide match that takes place there. This year it was what we call War of Ages. Last year it was Battle of the Best. The year before that it was Bouts of Honor. And we take all these different concepts and break into them, and these are some of the gimmick matches that our group of feds have that we utilize, which makes things really interesting as well when you get wrestler A finally interacting with wrestler B, and it brings out some great dynamics.
Exactly. Like speaking to that Bouts of Honor, one of my wrestlers was in TCW. Actually had a long feud with one of the Rage wrestlers, and they hadn't met each other in years. And he decided Bouts of Honor was the time to kind of bury the hatchet, and so he goes to talk to this guy. It doesn't go according to plan, but that's the kind of things you see. You see people haven't seen each other in years, and like, oh yeah, remember that history where we feuded all those years. And you get people that's never been together, who's never had matches together. So it's like that dream match scenario. It's like, what if, like I said, like in the Monday Night Wars, what if like Goldberg had gotten to fight Stone Cold? I mean, ego, that would never see, and that kind of stuff back then would never happen because the ego, WCW would want to win, WWF would want to end. But in this time, we can tell a pure story between two feds, because the ego and the money isn't there because there's no money, and hopefully there's not that much ego. I mean, hopefully.
To kind of bring out the idea of how we are really into storytelling is in one of those pay-per-views, Harvey Adams, who ended up retiring, my character, Matt Blake, they actually had a war of words and got super verbal and aggressive with each other, and they still never met in the ring until just recently, and that's when, they ended up having their big match and Matt ended up retiring. But, that was 2 to 3 years prior, but
long-term building.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
that's great.
At that time, Matt was in Rage and Adams was in TCW then, And then they met again at that same pay-per-view, and then there's still months before they even fought. So, yeah, there is that. Oh, we had and then when it happened, one of our best match writers wrote it, and it's one of my favorite matches. And I'll just say this: I can put my hand on the Power Bibles. I never thought I was going to win that match. They would send Matt Blake on a win, and like, no, I won clean, huh? I never saw it coming.
I've always been a believer in going out on your back, and
sure.
So that's just, and I was happy that that's how that turned out.
Yeah.
Talk to me about the roster size for your guys' individual shows. How many handlers do you have? How many characters do you have, roughly?
Well, I can tell you roughly we have about 38 to probably about 30, I would say, members who go and run different characters. So it ends up being, I just had the numbers too. Give me 1 second.
Sure.
If Matt wants to say anything, he can go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say TCW, we probably have, I'm thinking probably about, as far as like really strong, we probably about 10 handles that are really strong. And they run multiple characters in that. So we probably have about 30 or so characters in the, I'm trying to think of the pay-per-view I'm just put together. Actually, I'm already working on the one for October, the pay-per-view. And so, yeah, we probably have around 30 characters or so with 10 handlers running those characters. So, I mean, it's a pretty, I would say it's a pretty healthy group. Of course, more people I would love more people. Oh, of course. And it's, and like Bishop was saying earlier, we don't ask too much, one promo every 2 weeks. And it's just about getting those people in there and start building. Like I said, we have in both Rage and TCW, we have like that base foundation of guys that have been there like forever. And, they're always making, most of them have had the same characters, kind of like Bishop did, where they had Matt Blake forever and a day. And, but then they come out with new characters or whatever.
So if my calculation is correct, we have about 70 unique characters across the two feds. Not that many handlers, but we have about 70 different unique characters with unique personalities across the feds. Probably around, I want to say, 20 active handlers. So, you take that into consideration, it's a great group of creative people.
Sounds like it. It sounds like you've got a nice core group of people who've been around forever, telling great stories and developing them over a length of time.
Absolutely.
That's awesome.
So
you met. Go ahead.
Sorry. Then we got Flesh Blood coming in, bringing new wrinkles to it, and just adding. So it's always changing.
Well, let's talk about Fresh Blood. You guys are always looking for new competitors. You're always looking for new role players.
Yep.
And TCW Rage, it is a role play fed. You are based judging, competitive promos, and people are gunning for titles, but you're also working together.
Yep.
So it's almost integrated role playing, I guess you'd call it.
Yeah. So the best way I can describe it, and the way I like to look at it, is obviously role plays matter. And we want you to be active. We want you to put out promos. And if you don't, obviously you're not going to succeed. If you put forth the effort, you will be rewarded. It may not be today, it may not be tomorrow, but you will be rewarded. We call it a marathon, not a sprint.
It's a great way to put it, yeah.
Because like we've stated multiple times over this, is that we have handlers of all different kinds. Some people who write, five sentence promos, but that's all they can do. Like, just that's what they are good at. That's what they do. And they get rewarded in the same aspect as the person who writes a page or 2 pages. Maybe not as frequently, but they do get rewarded. So we're not an elitist fed where the best RP wins every single time, because storyline comes into play. Are you putting forth the effort? Are you role playing? Are you talking?
Writing segs? Exactly. Are you contributing to extra stuff? Are you feedbacking? Are you doing all the things? Yeah.
Exactly. It's by no means just based on your quality of RPs, because if that was the case, I mean, we'd have like 4 people who holds every single belt every single time.
And nobody wants to see that. I mean, I was in a Fed one time where I won the world title, and I was very excited. And I was like, yeah, I'm the world champion. And then the next week, I won those week-by-week promos shows. I lost it again. I'm like, why did I lose the belt so quick? Like, oh, your promo wasn't as good as this person. I disagreed. But the thing is, like, if you are in a Fed where it's based on who has the best promo every week, that's going to happen. Because sometimes you can have a bad week. Like, I got, just be honest, sometimes my promos, they kind of suck. I mean, you just
or sometimes you think you wrote something great, and turns out not everybody else believes it.
That's right. Sometimes that's the case too, and sometimes you're just not on your game, and like some people just aren't as whatever. They don't do as they can't put out as much. That's what they can do. And like we said, like I think it was Joel once told me, is that everybody has their time. Everybody, if you stick around, you put the work in, sooner or later you'll get your time. And I've seen it over and over again. People who have, and for me, when that, like, I know one guy I'm thinking about right now, and I don't want to say his, but he was somebody who, man, this guy every week, every show, he's plugging, he'd put in his stuff. And he was in my faction all the time. He was my muscle for my faction all the time. Because I loved working with the guy. He was game for anything. Like, I'm like, hey, man, why don't we do this? He's like, yeah, that sounds great. Like, he was just game for anything. And I tell you, when he finally won that world title, I felt I was going to cry. Because I felt like this guy, here's a guy.
You watched him grow up, yeah.
Right. Who just... And, for me, a lot of times, if you come, complaining to me about, oh, why didn't I get pushed? You're not getting pushed. That's just not going to happen. But this guy, his characters sometimes would get, just jobbed out. And there's no better word. He'd lose an embarrassing match or whatever to a new guy. Never complained. Never just said, okay, I'll do better next time. I'll just keep getting better. And, man, when he won that world title, I was like, yeah. You got it. You deserved it. And it's just that's the kind of feelings that these kind of feds can pull up, because you build a story, you build a relationship. It's not just about I've got to, oh, they put out 4 promos this week. I got to put out a 5th one so I can win. They're all going to suck if you do that. I mean, it's all about quality, not quantity. It's about putting in the time, putting in the effort, growing, building a character, and then sooner or later your character will get their day in the sun.
Talk to me about who are the bigger characters in the Fed. Who are the ones who've been around for a long, long time, and people give a shout out to some of your handlers.
Yeah, so probably one of the most controversial as well as historic characters is TCW's world champion right now, Daniel Dare. he has been around for a very long time. The character has been around for a very long time, and he knows how to. He plays the perfect heel. He knows how to get a rise out of you, and he will get a rise out of you one way or the other, no matter how he does it. And that's the gentleman that Matt was talking about, who was in a car and he kept losing internet connection while driving. So he's one of them. Joel, the characters he runs are always memorable and always a good person who will take somebody under his wing and work with them and come up with new, interesting things. You have the Saint. That character's been around for a very long time. He brings up the idea of him being the Michael Jordan of wrestling. So he's the GOAT. He's the GOAT. That's what he says.
It's the Wizards, Michael Jordan.
That's what one of the other handlers has been saying, is that he's the Wizards, Michael Jordan.
Nice. The White Sox.
Some other people that come to mind is the character Wolf and Darian Stryker. They've been really the breakout stars as of late. And then you have our newer people who have really stepped up, who it's just, I could sit here and name every single wrestler on the roster, and I could talk about them for an extended period of time.
Yeah, you talked about Daniel Dare. It's funny, Harvey Adams, when he came in, he said he's going to be the next Daniel Dare. That was his big thing when he first came in, that he was going to be the next Daniel Dare. So that we have this kind of love-hate relationship, and because of that, the Saint and Adams are also always at odds. In fact, we're feuding right now, which is not shocking because, I mean, we're in the same Fed, we're probably feuding with each other. But one of the guys I mentioned earlier, she made this character called La Chalupa Supremo, and he's this Midwestern white guy who thinks he's a luchador, and it's the most hilarious stuff I've read in a long time. It's a great character. In fact, it's so great. I run kind of a NPC jobber stable named the Gummy Army, which is exactly what you think it is. They're a team that's based off gummy bears. Don't ask me how this got started. It got started in a chat room one time, and I said that'd be a really funny character to make. Their leader is Greta Gummy, who's also a environmentalist. So, but anyways, she started feeding with them, and she actually freed two of their members and joined their team and made La Taco Bellas, which is just fantastic. And my friend, who's the outside national champion right now, is Vlad. I'm not going to try to say his name. It's a Russian name. I'll just massacre it on here. But and he's kind of your no-nonsense, almost Ken Shamrock-esque kind of guy. Like, you know, he's basically like, you know, I'm not.
He's a bad man.
Yeah, he's a bad man. I'm not cocky. I'm just going to beat you up. And if you can beat me, then you're a better man than I am, then you deserve to win. But I don't think you are. That kind of character. And
I love that.
Yeah, it's great. And like I said, neither one of those people watch wrestling. Not one bit. And
that's so crazy.
It is. I'll tell you, he was our dungeon master. He is our dungeon master. And he's very creative. And I said, man, you love making characters. You need to come join my EFed. He's like, what? And I said, no, man, you need to come be in our EFed. It'll be fun. He's like, I know nothing about wrestling. I'll help you. Don't worry, we can build a character. So we made this character together, and the girl over Chalupa, her boyfriend runs Wolf and Stryker, and I don't know what he said to tell her to come in, but but our tag team champions is the driver, who is the hardest man alive. That's his gimmick. He's the toughest, baddest man alive. He's so bad that apparently he beat up. We had this legendary faction called the Monsters, and it's just this 4 big European guys that just beat the crap out of everybody. But he claims to beat them all in one match one time. That's how hard he is.
He did not.
He did not. I don't. I think it goes back to this like technicality. Like he won the match for qualification.
Yeah.
He won by getting smashed over the head by DQ.
Yeah, exactly.
The shit out of him, and he's like, "Oh, I won! I'm hard." And his tag team partner, Shawnee O, which is this drug-added little midget character. Like that's part of his gimmick. He's like a midget, and just those two together, it's just craziness. And the third tag team member is Crazy Jenna. Her gimmick is that she believes the belts, like the championships, are children. So she names them all different names, and she believes that when she has a belt, she actually has a child. And if you try to take her belt, you're trying to take her child away from her. So she goes all mama bear on you. And it's a great, and she's one of those characters that dedication, like she was telling me that she has to like go to McDonald's. She doesn't have Wi-Fi at her house. She has to go to McDonald's and uses their Wi-Fi to do promos and stuff. And I'm like, that's the kind of dedication. That's what I'm talking about, these people. I mentioned earlier we have our vampire, Lucas Furr. He actually has the longest running stable in our Fed. I think Hounds Unstable's been around like 7 years in different forms.
The Unstables have been around since the Lucas Fur character has been there.
Yeah.
And he joined, I want to say about 5-6 years ago. That stable in some form or fashion has been around. So, things like that is stuff that we offer in our EFed. I mean, if you want to do something like let's get it done, Yeah,
I've had like 4 or 5 stables join forces and fall apart in about that time. So either have a stable either I seem to get betrayed, or usually I do the betraying. I'll be just honest about that. Harvey Adams is not a trustworthy person. But yeah, to have something like that last that long is very, very special. And like Matt said, he's got the culling, which is Jericho's cult, and he has a group of ladies called the Doves, who used to be nice, normal girls, and then that Jericho got in their heads, and now they're just evil, man. It's great. And I write for them, and it's a lot of fun. And Wolf's a part of that group, and it's all about saving TCW and Rage. TCW the champion in Rage right now is a real life pilot, Captain James Robertson.
Good old Captain James. He's my world champion in Rage right now.
Yeah, he's a great character. He's from planet Silver Star, and it's just cornflake power. It's just craziness. But in the same breath, you have old timers, classic wrestlers like Cage, who's been around forever. So, I mean, you just got such a great mix of wrestlers in both feds. It's almost like a buffet, like anything you're looking for. And if you don't see what you're looking for, then you're free to add it, because
there you go.
That's your job. Yeah, exactly. And, specialty matches. Matt has made some very memorable specialty matches for Rage. I haven't gotten that chance in TCW yet, and I don't want any spoilers, but they are coming, especially in the next couple of months and next year. I love specialty matches. I'm a gimmick match sucker, man. Royal Rumble's my favorite pay-per-view every year. Like
Mine too.
It's just so much fun. And it's so much fun that you just throw a bunch of guys in the ring and say, hey, we got this crazy stipulation. Let's see what happens.
Absolutely. And go ahead and talk about some of those crazy matches that you've booked.
So, I came up with a pay-per-view idea, and it actually was a huge hit, but it was a dog to write. It was called the Miracle Mile.
Okay.
And what it is I actually do a live draw. I go on to some website I found that gives you like one of those prize wheels, and I put all of the Rage roster on there, and I roll it, and if your name comes up, that's where you enter into the Miracle Mile. And what it is it's a Fed-wide gauntlet match. And
the entire Fed.
The entire Rage Fed it's a gauntlet match for the World Championship.
Wow.
So it is just single match after single match, and
I could see how that's a long one to write.
It's a dog to write, but it was a huge success. So that's one of the match types that I brought up. Some of the other ones, like I said, I have that tournament I run at the beginning of every year with every single title opportunity. And also we have what's called the Glass House. And that's a Rage staple that has been around since the induction of it. What it is, it's a steel cage pretty much, but it's made entirely out of glass. And that's where you go to end a rivalry. At the that's a rivalry ending match. There's no way around that.
If not a career ending.
Right,
yeah.
exactly. We have, like I had mentioned, we do the War of Ages, which is unique in its own aspect because it is, think of war games, but it's elimination style, and through the event, each title is up for grabs, and the winner gets a prize where at any point in time, he can either make a match or choose a representative for himself without the other person knowing. So ultimately, that person could become world champion without even having to be in the world championship match, but because the champion wins, he becomes the world champion.
Interesting. It makes it to where anybody has a chance to move up very quickly.
You got it.
Exactly. And one of my favorite matches in TCW is a staple we do every year at Hell's Holiday, which is on Halloween every year, no matter what day it is on. It's on Halloween. And it's called the Doomsday Match. And it's a multi-cage level match where you start with 12 people, and as you go up, people get eliminated by getting handcuffed to the side of the cage.
Damn.
Yeah, it's great. And then at the top of the cage, the two people fight, and the winner gets a title shot at Resurrection, the next pay-per-view, which is like our WrestleMania. But the catch is there's a curse associated with Tuesday, and it's really weird. Like it's kind of like it's almost the Undertaker streak. Like I don't think we ever meant to do it like this, but for a couple of years going, like the winner of Doomsday would have a really bad year the next year. Like, and it was weird. Like it almost like I don't believe in curses and all that. Like this is a Madden curse because it's totally real. But like
it's totally real, yes.
Totally real. That's creepy. But the Doomsday curse is because the thing is, can you win, and can you not only win the match, but can you beat the curse? Can you go on to Resurrection and win the world title? So it's really a fun, great match that we do.
I want to add to that Doomsday curse, that wasn't something that was ever booked for it to happen. It just kind of ended up happening organically over the years.
Yeah. Yeah. was kind of wasn't Matt Blake cursed one year? Didn't you win one year?
That's actually one of the only events I haven't won with that character. I never won with that character.
Okay.
Interesting. All right, guys. I'm going to give you 1 minute each. Give us your pitch for why people should join your Fed. Bishop, I'll let you go first.
All right. So the reason you should join Rage and TCW is because we are a community. We're community based. Everybody gets a chance to shine. We don't play favorites. You put the work in, you get success. We're just a community, and we're always looking for new people to add to that community, and just come have fun with us and just enjoy writing, and let's have some fun.
I like it. Matt?
All right. Well, my pitch basically is this. Like, we have been around 20 plus years. You know, most Feds, unfortunately, don't last, 2 weeks. I mean, that's just the high.
That's the way it is. Yeah.
And I can't tell you how many people I've had that say, I've went out and I looked and I can't find anything like TCW and Rage. And it really is something special. And you won't understand that until you join us. And I would just say, the welcome banner is on the wall. My arms are wide open. Come on in, come on home. It's gonna feel good. It's just a good place. Good people who want to have fun, want to build stories, want to build characters, and there's so much tradition, so much history to all these Feds. And man, you want to become a part of that tradition, part of that history. Come on in and let's get started. Let's do this together. You want to Fed no BS allowed. Let's just get rid of it. Come on, let's get to business. Let's have some fun. Let's do this thing.
That's awesome. And you can find TCW and Rage at e-wrestling.com. That's e-wrestling.com. That's awesome. Great domain name, too, that you guys snagged.
Yes.
I've tried to snag up everyone in e-wrestling. I didn't get that one.
That one's been around since about 2004. So
nice. Perfect. Yeah. So check out e-wrestling.com, or you can get in touch with these guys, get in touch with Matt, get in touch with Bishop, get in touch with Joel over on Facebook. I'm sure they'd love to have you. If you guys have emails you want to put out there, please do so now.
Yeah. Best email to reach me at is M as in Matt Blake, BLAKE 2052 at gmail.com. And that's mblake 2052 at gmail.com.
And my email, Matthew White at YUKI changes everything at gmail.com. That's Yuki changes everything at gmail.com. Like I said, that's YUKI changes everything at gmail.com.
There you guys have it. Reach out to them, touch base, get with them, and see if you can become a part of the TCW Rage family sometime soon. Awesome. All right, guys, I'm going to hit you with some questions from my audience. And I don't know how you want to do this. If you want to, we can have you both answer if you can keep them quick, or I can go back and forth. What do you want to do?
I think we'll be able to keep them quick.
Yeah, we can do.
Okay, very good. So from the EFed podcast Discord, and you can find that, guys, over on twitter.com/the EFed podcast. That's our Twitter handle, and in the profile is the link to the Discord if you want to hop in. So, questions from the Discord. Let me see. We got Megan likes coupons in there, and she came up with, how on earth did you guys handle this over Google Docs and groups? What is the annoying part of having an email Fed?
So the way we handle it over in Google Docs is, it's Google Groups, is we go and have individual categories for what we're looking to do. So Rage RP, TCW RP, TCW Mail, Rage List, and we categorize it like that so it comes through the email with a specific tag. As for,
I will attest to that. It is very easy to tell what I'm about to open before I even open it. Before I even read the character's name, I know it's an RP, news, whatever.
Yeah. Probably the most difficult thing about an email fed is that it can overrun your email box. But there's ways around that. You can go and put tags so that anything TCW or Rage related goes to specific folders. So there's ways around that.
Yeah, and you can also set up digest daily where it all comes in one big email if you want to do that. So there's options for how you do it.
And what's the annoying part of having an email fed? Just being overloaded?
Yeah, I think that's really it. I mean, and occasionally Google will decide to be like, oh, we're not going to work or whatever. And that kind of stuff happens. Or, emails get truncated and stuff like that. I mean, that's kind of happen anywhere. So, just little things like that. But overall, I think it's a very positive experience.
Good deal. Jason Reeves, Stalker's up next. Whose idea was it to use Google Groups and email to run the Fed?
That was like I had mentioned earlier, that was a group conversation the management team had at that time. And we were familiar with Yahoo Groups, so we just felt that if we could get our heads wrapped around Google Groups, it would be an easy transition moving from Yahoo Groups to Google Groups.
Yeah, exactly. It's just one step to the other.
Yeah, easy. It makes sense to where everybody's used to this format. Let's just keep it rolling.
Mm-hmm.
So, do you find yourself having to teach the handlers how to properly participate in your Fed, and how easy is the learning curve? Good question.
I think really like it's simple to post on there. Like it's real simple. It's real easy. I mean, a couple of the new guys I've had come in, I kind of had to basically say, I take screenshots. Like I break it down like that. I'm like, look, you push this button and you write your message here and you push post. I mean, it's that simple. But I think people, for the most part, get it pretty easily. They can, but I mean, there's always, like, for those people who it takes a little bit longer, who aren't tech savvy or whatever, there is a transitional period, and that will last as long as it needs to be until they're comfortable. I will work with those people and kind of help them along, but I think most people catch on pretty quickly.
I think the fact that you guys have some people who aren't even wrestling fans in the Fed is a testament to that.
Oh, exactly.
All right, here's a good one. What's the best gimmick match your Fed has ever had? And if ran more than once, how do you ensure the gimmick match doesn't run stale?
I'm a fan of Miracle Mile just because I created it. But
sure.
One thing that I've always been excited to read each and every single time was the Glass House. And that's because you can always add a different aspect to it. So, for instance, just last year, I was my first year booking the Glass House match and running it as my own. And to keep it fresh, it was a 4-man Iron Man Glass House match for an hour. So there's different ways that you can just add in, for instance, add in an Iron Man stipulation or a 2 out of 3 stipulation. You can do that and keep those things fresh, as well as just the feuds themselves, keep them fresh as well.
I think so that keeps Glass House so fresh is, like we talked about earlier, was that it is the one that ends that feud, and each feud so differently. But I want to mention one that we haven't talked about, which is Building Brawl, which doesn't happen every year. In fact, I think it's been a couple years since we've had one. I might need to fix that next year. But I like that one because basically you take over a area. I think the last one took place in a Walmart. And you just think about all the fun and all the madness that happened at Walmart. Like I got to write the part in the hardware section, and just the chaos that can kind of erupt in that kind of situation. And the fact that you can have it in any building or any place really it's just kind of a fun kind of match.
Good deal. We got Seth is Burns up next, and a lot of these questions are going to be formatting questions because these guys aren't familiar with your Fed specifically.
Right, absolutely.
So I apologize if we get repetitive, but Seth wants to know, Google Docs groups is absolutely handy. That said, have you seen any pitfalls with the email fed format that may turn other handlers away?
Probably one of the biggest things that I've noticed and we've taken some precautions to prevent this, is the amount of groups you do actually have to join to be on all of them. At first, when we were starting to get familiar with onboarding people and stuff like that, we ran into that a couple times. The way we found a way around that is, for instance, if your first Fed is going to be TCW, for instance, we just onboard you on the TCW RP list and the TCW mail list. So it's only 2 groups that you have to join compared to all of the other history-related ones and stuff like that. So that was probably one of our biggest hiccups in the beginning and one of the biggest pitfalls.
Yeah, people just get kind of overwhelmed. I know I had a guy who I sent it was my fault, and I just kind of sent him every group we had because I was just trying to say, hey, look at all this stuff we have. And he was just kind of like, oh my God, like I'm overwhelmed. I can't do this kind of thing. And I think to just slowly kind of say, okay, well, here's TCW. And then later on say, oh, here's our histories one. Here's our Hall of Fame. You want to join Rage 2? Here's our Rage one. And kind of just slowly bring them in.
That's probably the best way to do it. I would imagine, introduce a small sample size and then grow as you're capable.
Exactly.
Smash is up next. How many backup documents do you guys have?
Oh boy. So I keep all the records. So with Yahoo shutting down, a bunch of us requested files from that. So we still have all those files. I have Rage Championship lists on my computer dating all the way back to its inception. I have a list of every single champion or person that's been in the Fed and what championships they've won. So there's a lot of different documents that we keep to preserve our history. And that's the big thing why we have those documents, is to preserve our history.
That's great. And it's cool that you guys have all that stuff even from way, way back.
Yeah.
JCS OCW Fed wants to know, what do you find the most challenging thing about running the Fed through Google Groups?
Probably the onboarding process, like we had mentioned.
Yeah.
Just because, like we had stated in the beginning, sending all the lists to people overwhelmed them, and that kind of could turn people off. So we've established where now we only send like 2 groups. Hey, join this one and this one. That'll get you going. That'll get you into the RPing and everything like that. And then, over time we can, join this one so you can check out, other people's apps as well and stuff like that.
Yeah, just keeping it, just getting people in, because once they get in, they get started, they get going, and they're fine after that. Just getting people started.
Do you guys think you got the inspiration from older Feds that used to use like snail mail and phones?
Yeah.
To that you still continue to use email today?
Yeah, that really started the whole thing. I know, the owner who started TCW and the owner who also started Rage, that's what they used to do snail mail. And it evolved into what we have today.
That's wild, isn't it?
It is.
Like I said, I remember the old
card games, yeah.
off the wrestling magazine. So
they were just getting your information to sell you stuff, right?
Well, yeah. I didn't know that, so
no doubt.
The more you know, right?
Yeah, that's right. At Rosseron, do you guys use Comic Sans?
So, funny story, and back in the old Yahoo group days, we had somebody who used to write all their promos in red ink, in red font, and it used to drive somebody else absolutely bonkers. So you can write in whatever font you would like, as long as it's readable.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I mean, people can get really fancy. I mean, I write all my emails in Arial. I don't really get too fancy. No Joker Man, though, because, no one's got time for that now.
No wingdings?
No wingdings.
You know what? No, if you had a whole promo on Ring Games, that's worth chanting. I'm shook.
Well, I'm gonna just kind of add something to this. It's funny that this question was asked because that's one thing positive that Google Groups does is you can make it so there's really no special formatting to that post. Just basic whatever the basic formatting is.
Message.
Yeah, exactly. So, we're not looking for anything special. If you want to write in Comic Sans, man, by all means, you can write in Comic Sans. And you know what? Add some red font into that as well.
There you go. You bring in the red font back. I like it.
That's right.
At Joker Shane, do you find that it helps writers focus primarily on their content of the writing and not formatting or other technical issues?
Absolutely.
Yeah, because it's clean, it's easy. They don't have to worry about putting in that box. Like I said, it's you just push post and you write your message in the thing.
You don't need an avatar. You don't need a banner image. You don't need graphics. You just need to tell your story.
Yeah, exactly. One also major thing that it helps do is, for instance, like what we had stated earlier, we're on the go a lot. A lot of people in our Fed are on the go a lot. So certain things pop out more than others. So for instance, if I'm feuding at the time right now, Harvey Adams and the Saint are coming for Jericho Holloway's Intercontinental Championship. So if I'm out and about and I might have 10 minutes on a break, I can look through my email and see, okay, the handler for Saint posted an RP. I need to read that because that's right there and then. That's more important to me because that's something involved with my character directly. And then you can go back and read other promos and shows and stuff like that. But, it allows for you to specifically be like, okay, this person posted something and it's right in my email. I can just quickly browse it instead of having to go to a website, go to a link or
the roleplay page, or forum.
You got it.
Yeah. It is. It's convenient. I'll tell you that. It did kind of take over my inbox for a week, but it definitely makes it easy access. The next question is Queen Linda's OG. She wants to know, is replying all encouraged in the Fed?
There's a debate on that. So we do encourage, you to not, post your own as a response, but it's not discouraged to reply to that particular RP. As a general rule, every single RP that is sent gets sent to everybody. So there's not secret back and forth RPs because everybody needs to read them. The bookers read them so that we can choose, so we can book. But there's some debate whether replying directly on somebody else's RP and how that should handle. And it's a friendly debate. It's not a big issue in our Fed or anything.
I would just say that I am not a fan of the replying to the promo. I like it when you start. I mean, okay, I will mark that with kind of a asterisk. Like if they're having to go back and forth, like they come back and say, "Hey, da da da," and then they reply. That's okay, but if you're just starting to, camera face in on character, I'm starting a new promo, you need to just start a new promo at that point.
You shouldn't be breaking down your opponent's roleplay line by line.
Right. But you know what? I can't, because back in the day I was kind of guilty towards that. So so I don't get struck by lightning. I won't bash that too much. But yeah, we don't want to see that.
Last question is from Trash Talk Titan. There's a trend of Feds doing this kind of minimalist approach. It's almost a we're too cool for fancy shit sort of way. As a fancy shit guy, what am I missing out on by not boiling it down to just a Google Doc or a group or an email? What's the downside to having all of the graphics and etc.? In an era where it's the easiest it's ever been to put the fancy shit together.
So we've kind of addressed it multiple times, is the ease of access. The fancy stuff, man, if you want to do the fancy stuff in our Fed, post a picture of who your wrestler looks like or whatever it is. We don't discourage that, but it's not a requirement. For instance, we had one handler a while back who used to do promotional videos. So he would take images and stuff like that and put it to music and be like, hey, this is the main event of the show, like you would see on actual TV. That stuff's not discouraged. If you want to do that, by all means. The big thing that we stress is that we're looking for ease of access because it's a cross of different abilities.
Sure.
Yeah, and like I said before, like I just did this is the first time I've done it, and I did a video promoting our pay-per-view, which is going to be tomorrow night actually, and it's the first time I've ever done anything like that. I'm curious to see feedback because I'm not sure how great it is, so we'll just see. But I think, and like Bishop said, there's a lot of accessibility. And I think a lot of times when you get so caught up in all that fancy stuff that you kind of lose the heart and soul of what e-fedding is. You get so caught up in all the gifts and the lights and the glitz, but then you forget, we're actually here to tell a story. We're here to, you lose something. And I think a lot of times that those feds seem to kind of fade out because it's a lot of work. And somebody's got to do all that work. Somebody's got to, not saying that these feds aren't a lot of work, but, you've got to get good at making graphics, which I am not good at. I'm not good at. One of our guys is very talented at that. I can't do that. And he'll make graphics every now and then, but, when you get caught up in that, and then you lose focus on what really matters in EFed, which is
you're spending more time doing the graphic than you are writing your RP.
Right. Exactly. So it's like, are we going to trade for? Do you want a Fed that has a bunch of, flashing images like an old 90s Zyga page? Or do you want a Fed that's been around for 20 years that has solid history, solid stories, and solid role plays? I mean,
Probably the biggest thing I would add on to all of that and kind of to wrap it up, to summarize it, is it's not that we don't do fancy stuff. Every once in a while I'll do a, what I call a podcast. Really, it's just me going on a video and breaking down, where things are in Rage, for instance, upcoming show, and going over the winners and losers and things like that. It's not that it's not there. It's just, it's not required. It's extra. If that's what you want to do to bring another level of realism to you, by all means. It's not a requirement. So if you don't want to be involved in that and do that, then you don't have to. And that's probably the biggest thing, is it's not a requirement.
There you have it. Guys, that's the interview. Before I let you guys go, is there anything else you want to plug, promote, put over? Anything else?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you for having us. This has been a great experience, and, I'm ready to come back whenever you're available to have me. And look us up on Rage. If you have any questions, reach out to us. I'm on the Discord as TruthSeeker63. By all means, reach out to me and ask me what's up, and even if you just have any other questions.
Yeah, I just want to add that this right now, we're kind of heading towards, like I said, we got pay-per-view. Rage got Legends of Rage coming up, and Hell's Target and Miracle Mile, and then our big pay-per-views, Resurrection and Year. What year is it for y'all this year in Rage?
Year 17 or 18, I think.
Something like that. So really, right now is the perfect time to join our feds, because you can get in right now and really start building these big pay-per-views, and then come the end of the year, we take our break, and then you can hit next year running, and you already have that momentum that you built up during this big hot time, and then you just keep on going. So right now, really, I mean, there's no bad time to join the Feds, but right now, I would say it's like that perfect time. Last year, this is when my friend joined, and he's doing great. I mean, he picked up that momentum, and then we took a break, and he just started back. He wasn't a new face. He was already kind of established, and then he just started year off and start moving forward. So, man, yeah, like, if you have any questions, you can always email me at yukichangeseverything@gmail.com. That's yukichangeseverything@gmail.com. yukichangeseverything@gmail.com.
And there you have it. Bishop, Matt, thank you guys so much for taking the time to join us for the podcast, talk about your Fed, and hopefully we can draw a couple more eyes over to you.
We appreciate everything you're doing.
Well, that was a lot of fun, you guys. Really excited to have Matt and Bishop on and talk about a different side of EFedding that I don't typically hear about. A side that I've never played as far as Google Groups go, and I'm intrigued by the concept. I know my inbox was not happy about being part of the Fed, but I thought it was pretty interesting. Good stuff. Thanks, guys, for doing the interview, and you guys definitely check out TCW/Rage if that's the kind of stuff you're looking for. Otherwise, guys, that's going to wrap us up for this week's edition of the EFed podcast. Thanks to all of our sponsors for helping support the show. Thanks to our good friends over at patreon.com/EFed podcast. Appreciate each and every one of you for helping support us, for feedbacking with us, having fun. We did the Bad Graps last week where we watched some old bad wrestling together as a group of the legends of Patreon. You should check that out over at patreon.com/EFed podcast. For this show, though, guys, thanks to EWC, thanks to Defiance Wrestling, thanks to Occupy Pro Wrestling, OCW Fed, so much more. Appreciate all of you guys tuning in and checking out the show. Appreciate our listeners. Appreciate everybody. This is the Love Minute here on the EFed podcast where I tell everybody I love them. Guys, for Brian, I'm Mikey. Really appreciate you checking out the show. This is the EFed podcast where the wrestling is written, but the characters are real.
On Patreon.